Let's be blunt. You're probably taking notes completely wrong. So let's talk about a serious system upgrade for your brain. We're calling it the cognitive filtering architecture. I want you to think about your notes for a second. Are they a living, breathing source of knowledge, or are they just a graveyard of dead information? For most people, it's the latter, and that isn't learning. That's just hoarding. You know what I mean? When you're sitting in a meeting or a lecture and you're just transcribing everything word for word, you're not actually engaging. You've just turned yourself into a human dictation machine. And look, the data backs this up. Psychologists at Princeton and UCLA found that students who took notes by hand, which forces you to process and summarize, had way better long-term recall than those who just typed everything verbatim. The old way is, quite frankly, a systemic failure. So, what's the fix? Well, we need to upgrade your mental operating system. This is the cognitive filtering architecture. Think of it as a data processing protocol for your mind. It's been engineered to shift you from being a passive hard drive into an active processor that's built for one thing: real-time interpretation and recall. Okay, let's run a system diagnostic. The old system, that's the stenographer. Its job is to capture everything. It's passive, it creates a massive cognitive load, and guess what? It's incredibly prone to system failure. The upgraded system, that's the architect. It doesn't capture everything, it filters for the signal. It's an active process. It manages cognitive load because it's built from the ground up for one purpose: recall. We're not just recording information here, we are building understanding. So how does it work? Well, this isn't just about how you organize a page. It's a strict three-phase protocol. Phase 1, data capture. Phase 2, creating what we call triggers or API calls for your brain. And Phase 3, synthesis and compression. All right, Phase 1, data capture. This happens in the main, wide column of your page. And your mission is simple: record the essential signal and ignore the noise. I'll say it again. Do not transcribe. Your job is to capture the gist. Use abbreviations, use symbols, skip lines, give your brain room to think. Now for Phase 2. This is where the real work gets done. We call this triggers, or API calls. You're going to use that narrow left-hand column to create retrieval hooks for your brain. Now, timing is critical here. You do this immediately after capture while the information is still fresh. You pull out the main ideas, the key words, and you start forming questions. These become the specific API calls you'll use later to pull that information out of your memory on command. And finally, Phase 3, synthesis and compression. At the bottom of the page, you distill everything, all that raw data, down into 1 or 2 sentences. This is your ultimate test, because if you can't explain it simply, you haven't really understood it. This is the moment you compress raw data into actual usable knowledge. Okay, so that's the how. We've laid out the mechanics. But to really grasp the power of this system, we have to get into the why. What is actually happening on a cognitive level that makes this whole architecture function so effectively? Here's the secret. It works because it's not actually a note-taking method at all. It's a cognitive input-output loop. The entire system is engineered to force you to interact with information, not just passively absorb it. Let's look at the loop. On one side, you have passive input, lectures, readings, videos. The architecture forces you to turn that into active output. You're not just listening, you're filtering during data capture. You're not just reading, you're questioning to create triggers. And you're not just being overloaded with facts, you're synthesizing it all into real understanding. This is how you build a searchable database in your own mind. So let's compare what's happening inside your head. Passive storage, just writing things down, creates incredibly weak neural connections. They fade, and they fade fast. This architecture, however, forces active recall. You're not just trying to memorize, you are actively questioning and understanding, which literally strengthens the memory pathways in your brain for powerful, long-term retention. You know, the original architect of this system, Walter Pauk, said it best way back in the 50s. Writing questions helps clarify meanings, reveal relationships, establish continuity, and strengthen memory. See? It was never about just documenting things. It has always been about engineering genuine understanding. So, at the end of the day, you have a mandate. You have to choose your role. Are you going to be the stenographer, passively recording the past, just managing raw data? Or are you going to be the architect, actively building the future, designing systems and creating new knowledge? Stop being a stenographer. Start being an architect. Subscribe and join the loop.